Hello everyone, welcome to Kumar's Kids channel. Today's story is going to be about Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. This is the Lion King 2. Let's get started. It was a special day at Pride Rock. Animals had gathered from far and wide to greet the Lion King's new cub. As the winds shrilled majestically, Rafiki, the wise mystic baboon, had held the infant eye high so the animals of the Pride Lands could admire their beloved king's new baby. The proud parents, Simba and Nala, nuzzled each other as they watched the ancient ceremony. Simba's old friend Timon, Pumbaa, were almost excited as the new parents. Look at the little guy, Timon gushed. A chip of old block. Just then Rafiki made an announcement. It's a girl! Simba and Nala beamed with pride. Girl, yelled Timon, who was not known for his diplomacy. Oi! That evening, Rafiki retired alone to his tree to paint a picture of Simba's new daughter, Kiara. Then he took to the skies and the spirit of his dear old friend, Mufasa. Oh, Mufasa, Rafiki chanted. Another circle of life is completed. But in response, Mufasa made a wind blow that the rattle of the trees. He was warning Rafiki that trouble was brewing nearby. Long ago, the great King Mufasa had been killed by the treacherous act of his own brother Scar. Scar had led renegade, renegade group of lions who tried to seize control of the Pride Lands. He plotted had failed, and Mufasa's son Simba had taken his rightful place as king. Now Scar was dead, but his lioness Zira had not lost her thirst for power at any cost. Zira and the other outsiders lived in the outlands, a dry and a barren place where Mufasa had banished them when they began making trouble. Now Zira was plotting to avenge Scar's death. She was training her son Koyu to take Simba's place as king of the Pride Lands. She was bringing Koyu up to the strong and ruthless. As a first step, she sent Koyu's brother and sister, Nuka and Vitani, on a mission to find out what was happening at Pride Rock. Pride Rock. Simba's new cub is a girl, Vitani reported. Zira smiled. Boys, she growled, will be kings. Since I'm the oldest, maybe I should be the king, said Nuka. Don't be a fool, Nuka, Zira snarled. Under Zira's plan, everyone had role to play. Her favorite child, Kuyu, would be king. Nuka and Vitani were to protect him. Several months later, Kiara had grown into a happy and a healthy young cub. always ready to play and eager to explore the world. And remember, Zimba lectured his daughter one day as she prepared to go out and play, stay in sight of Pride Rock at all times and stay away from outlands. Kiara promised to be careful and then raced away. But Simba had a feeling that his daughter was in the mood for adventure, so he asked his friends Timon and Pumbaa to follow her and make sure she was safe. Kiara was not at all pleased when she realized that she had two babysitters following her. But Kiara was clever cup. She waited until Timon and Pumbaa started bickering. Once they were distracted, she slipped away to explore on her own. After wandering for a while, Kiara noticed a swampy river she had never seen before. Fascinated, she scrambled happily down to steep slope towards the water. There she came face to face with a strange cup from the outlands. Kiara was startled to see a stranger. She remembered her father's warnings about the outsiders. So she returned on her heels to get away and scrambled across some large rocks at the swamp's edge. Then, to Kiara's dismay, one of the rocks she was standing on moved. It was a crocodile, and there were more all around her, with hungry jaws snapping. Kiara froze with terror. Then the strange cup reappeared suddenly at her side, and together they scrambled across the backs of the crocodiles to the safety of the water's edge. You were really brave, Kiara said when the cubs were safe. You were pretty brave too, the other cub said hesitantly. My name's Koyu. I'm Kiara. Neither cub knew that the lioness Ziara was spying on them, and she didn't like what she saw. As Ziara watched, she realized that Kiara had lost her fear of Kuyu and that the two cubs were becoming friends. Kiara even tried to start a game of tag. But Kuyu didn't know how to play. Just then Simba appeared. He had been looking everywhere for Kiara. And when she saw her with her cup from the outland, he sprang to defend her. Immediately, Ziara emerged from her hiding place to stand beside her son. Simba, she hissed at her old enemy. Ziara was about to attack when she heard a growl from behind her. It was Kiara's mother, Nala. Behind her were Timon and Pumbaa. If Ziara tried to fight now, she would be badly outnumbered. Instead, she coyly introduced Koyu as Scar's chosen hire and the next leader of the Pride lands. Simba understood the threat. He knew that Zira and had not accepted scarce defeat. Take him and get out, he said. We are finished here. Oh no, Zira replied slyly. We have barely begun. Then she and Koyu headed back towards the outlands. As Simba picked up Kiara to take her home to Pride Rock, the two cubs quietly bid each other goodbye. They would miss playing together. Their friendship seemed to be over before it had even begun. When Simba and Kiara were alone, the Lion King said, "You need to be careful as future queen." "What if I don't want to be queen?" Kiara replied. replied. She looked at a big bird flying free overhead. She was not sure she wanted all the responsibility of being a ruler of the Pride lands. Simba understood her, so he explained patiently, "That's like saying you don't want to be a lion. It is in your blood as I am. We are part of each other." Meanwhile, in the outlands, Zera lashed out at Nuka, who had failed to keep an eye on his brother Kuyu. "It's not his fault," Kuyu interrupted. "I went off on my own." Then he started talking about Kiara. "She didn't seem so bad. I thought we could be friends." "Friends?" Zira hissed. Then she paused. Maybe Kuyu had an idea. The way to overthrow Simba was through his daughter. She would allow Kuyu to get close to future queen. The Kuyu would be able to get rid of Simba and take over the Pride lands. One day, after seasons had passed, Kuyu stood proudly in front of the outsiders, while his mother inspected him carefully. You are ready," Zira pronounced. The other outsiders roared their approval. Meanwhile, on Pride Rock, Kiara was preparing to make her first solo hunt. "Daddy," Kiara said as she started out toward the plains, "you have to promise that you will let me do this on my own." "Promise?" Simba promised, but soon after Kiara left, he realized that he could not bear the thought of his daughter facing any danger on her own. In recent days, there had been growing tensions between the Pride landers and the outsiders. He suspected that Zara was up to something. Simba knew he had to break his promise to Kiara. Once again, he asked Timon and Pumbaa to follow Kiara and make sure she stayed out of trouble. Timon and Pumbaa took their mission seriously. They did their best to protect Kiara without letting her know they were nearby. They ducked behind rocks, scooted behind trees, and crawled on their bellies, threw their tail grass. Then they came face to face with Kiara. Kiara felt betrayed and angry. Her father had promised to let her hunt on her own, but he didn't trust her after all. She raced away from Timon and Pumbaa as fast as she could. The wet hog and the merked and no chance of keeping up with the young lioness. Unfortunately, Kiara was running right into a trap that Zara had prepared for her. Zara's spies had been keeping a constant watch on events at Pride Rock. They had told her of Kiara's first big hunting trip. Now it was time to put her evil plan in motion. She sent Nuka and Vitani to set fire to the long grass where Kiara was planning to hunt. By the time Kiara noticed the flames closing in on her, it was too late to escape. She was overcome by the smoke and surrounded by fire. Just when it looked just when it looked as though Kiara might be lost forever, Kuyu appeared. He braved his way through the dense smoke and flames and dragged Kiara unconscious to safety in a nearby swamp. When Kiara regained consciousness, she was furious. "Why'd you bring me here?" she asked the strange lion who had rescued her. "Who do you think you are?" Then she paused. He seemed familiar, and so did the swamp where they were standing. "Crew?" she asked. Just then Simba and Nala arrived with Rafiki. They had seen the fire from Pride Rock and arrived in time to see the brave rescue. Still, Simba was suspicious of the young lion, but Kuyu stood his ground. "I humbly ask to join you, your pride," he said. Simba hesitated. Kuyu was an outsider, but he had just saved Kiara's life. Reluctantly, Simba allowed Kuyu to return to Pride Rock with his family, but he still did not trust Kuyu that night. Simba would not let him inside his cave with the rest of his pride. From afar, Nuka and Ziara watched perched on a tree limb, waiting to see what would happen. When they saw Kiara came out of the cave to speak to Kuyu, they hoped to see him get rid of Kiara and her father. Get rid of her father once and for all. But after a few minutes, Kiara went quietly back into the cave. That night, Simba had a horrible dream about the day Scare had let Mufasa fall to his death. But in dream, he saw Kuyu instead of Scare. Simba couldn't help wondering about whether Kuyu could be trusted. Simba had a reason to worry. Kuyu had spent his whole life in training to destroy the Lion King, but the next day, as Kuyu lay in wait to attack Simba, something made him hesitate. It was Kiara. She wanted him to go with her to the plains and teach her how to stalk. They came across Timon and Pumbaa hunting for bugs as usual and having a hard time because there were so many birds around. Kiara and Kuyu decided to help racing around and scaring the birds away. One bird even gave Timon an unexpected ride. For the first time in his life, Kuyu was actually having fun. The friends spent the rest of the day enjoying themselves, chasing birds and annoying a herd of rhinoceros. You are okay, kid? Timon said to Kuyu, which made the young lion feel quite special. Even more important, he realized how much he enjoyed spending time with Kiara. That night, Kuyu and Kiara lay on his backs under the stars, gazing up at the vast expanse of sky. My father and I used to do this all the time, Kiara said. He says all the great kings of the past are up there. Kuyu had spent his whole life believing that Pride Landers were his enemies. Now he was beginning to doubt everything Zara had taught him. On a nearby hill, Simba was also having doubts. Father, he said, I'm lost. Kuyu is scarce higher. How can I expect him? But there were no answers from his father that night. Instead of Nala appeared at Simba's side, he suggested that Simba get to know Kuyu before maybe Kuyu could choose to follow a different path from the one Ziara had and Scare had chosen. Rafiki also hoped that Kuyu would decide to stay with the Pride Landers. The baboon had been getting messages in the wind from his friends Mufasa, telling him that Kiara and Kuyu belonged together. At first, Rafiki didn't like the idea, but when he saw Kiara and Kuyu nuzzling, he knew they were falling in love, and he understood Mufasa's wise message. That night, when Kiara and Kuyu returned to Pride Rock from their day of adventure, Simba finally invited the Lion King to join the rest of the Pride inside their cave. From a safe distance, Vitani was spying on her brother and saw him enter the cave. This wasn't part of the outstanding plan she raised to tell Zira. Zira was outraged when she heard what had happened. You cannot betray us, she cried. This was the moment Nuku had been waiting for. When the time comes, he'll show his true colors. I have a plan, he said slyly. Nuka so desperately wanted Zira's approval that he would do anything to outshine Kuyu. The next day, Simba invited Kuyu to go for a walk so he could explain the history between the Pride Landers and outsiders. Scare, he said, had never been able to let go of the hatred in his heart. In the end, it had destroyed him, but it had also destroyed his own brother Mufasa. This was the first time Kuyu had heard the truth about his family. He was disappointed to learn about his uncle's scare, but he realized that Simba was right. The hatred had to stop. Just then Simba heard a noise and turned to see Zira and several other outsiders advancing in a circle toward him. It was an ambush, and Simba was certain that Kuyu had helped to set it up, especially when Zira congratulated her unsuspecting son. "Why, Simba," said Zira, "what are you doing here and so alone?" Realizing that he was outnumbered, Simba raced to escape into a nearby ravine. Then, with nowhere else to go, he scrambled onto a high pile of logs which were perched precariously on top of each other. At the top of the pile, Simba was desperately aware that a single wrong step would make the logs fall, and Nuka was the only outsider foolish even to advance. "I'll do it for you, Zira," he said, ready to do anything to gain his mother's affection. But when Nuka jumped up, the logs began to tumble. Simba quickly leaped to the safety. By the time the logs stopped rolling, Nuka lay trapped beneath them. Zira ran to his side and ran a gentle paw. Her son's face was as he took his last breath. Then, in her anger, she turned toward Kuyu and swift a vicious claw across his face. Forever after that, Kuyu would wear a scar above his eye exactly like the one that had marked Scare. Kuyu turned his back on his mother and returned to Pride Rock. Now he knew where his loyalties lay with Simba and Kiara. But when he reached the Pride Rock, he met the scorn of thousands of animals. All the Pride Landers thought the Kuyu had led Simba into outsiders' ambush. From the top of Pride Rock, Simba pronounced Kuyu's fate. Exile from the Pride Lands forever. Kiara tried to defend Kuyu, but Simba had made up his mind. Kiara went after Kuyu to convince him to come home. She still believed that together they could bring peace to the outsiders and Pride Landers. But by the time they returned to Pride Rock, a furious battle was already underway. Kiara found her father in the midst of fray. "Daddy, this has to stop," Kiara pleaded. Then she repeated the very words he had once spoken to her. "A wise king once told me," she said, we are one." Simba hesitated for only a moment. He remembered what his father had taught him, and then he called for peace. Zira was furious at this turn of events. She lunged at Simba, but Kiara jumped to block her attack. Then, snarling and scratching, the two lioness rolled together to the edge of a cliff. For a moment, it looked as though both would tumble over the edge, but Kiara managed to hold on. Zira clung to the edge for a few long moments, refusing Kiara's help then. The Simba heard his father's voice in the wind. "Well done, my son," said Mufasa. The Lion King had brought peace to the Pride Lands once again. Okay, this is the end of the Lion King story. We will come up with another story soon. Thank you for watching. Okay, the Lion King story haven't ended. Okay, the Lion King story haven't ended. I have missed a page, so I'm going to start and finish the ending. Zara was lost forever. The outsiders laid out aside their dream of taking over Simba's territory. Instead, they returned to their old home in the rich Pride Lands to live in peace and harmony. Landers. A few days later, there was much rejoicing at the Pride Rock. Of yet another reason, this time the Pride Landers and the outsiders gathered together in a great circle and watched Rafiki perform the ancient ceremony to mark the union of the two prides. And so the promise that Mufasa had whispered in the wind had come true, thanks to Kiara and Koyu. The warring prides had joined together to build a lasting peace. Together, Simba and Koyu stood with their mates at the edge of Pride Rock and roared their happiness over the plains. Then Simba heard his father's voice in the wind. "Well done, my son," said Mufasa. The Lion King had brought peace to the Pride Lands once again. This is the end of Lion King story, guys. Thank you for watching.